So I'd like to call the meeting to order, but there's only 4 of 8 members, which means we won't have a quorum again, which
We got.
Oh, you're
Billy's-
here. That made us wonderful. We did it. Just when I was losing hope. Fantastic. Okay, great. So we can have quorum. So we'll call to order at 6:04 with quorum, which is fantastic. And we have a public comment period. Zaylee, so you know, I have a public here. Oh wait, how do we? Where? There we go.
Hi, Jim.
So Jim's here, and did you want to make a comment? You're good.
No, I'm good.
He's good. Okay. All right, great. So then we do have this really packed day, so I really just need to just stay focused and crush through some stuff. And so does anyone have anything they would like to add to the agenda? Hoping not. Okay, good. Okay, can we review and approve the minutes from February 8th? Those were distributed.
I move to accept. Yeah, I read them, but I wasn't there, so I don't think that I can vote.
Okay, cool. Would anyone like to make a motion about that particular item?
Motion to approve those minutes. I second Helen's motion.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so there's a second. All those in favor? Okay, the motion carries, and we will approve the minutes from February 8th. There was not quorum on March 14th, although we have notes. We do not have official minutes to approve. There was no official correspondence that I recall. And then we can start with our business items. So I'd like to talk to our Middlebury College collaborating group from the Environmental Studies 401 class. I'd like to speak to them about some of the updates they have for us. They have a list of updates they want to make us. I'd also like to make sure that we discuss the upcoming presentations. And we have about 20 minutes we can spend on this because we have a busy day. And Kristen, you do have those pictures of Eagle, is that right? Okay, then we definitely don't have time. Okay, so 20 minutes.
Great. Yeah, we'll hop into it. I'm Bailey.
I'm Brian.
Brian, we're 2 of the 5 members of our group here with the ES 401 project, and we've been working with Alex and you all a little bit. We met during the last meeting as well, just to talk about kind of our updates. And our main goal for this project is to map the wildlife corridors and identify key areas for protection and conservation to help you all advise for the town plan coming up forward. So we've been doing a lot of work, a lot of camera trapping, kind of initially working with Alex to set up some key spots. And after about a month and a half, we've had some nice, been able to get some good photos and captures from those camera traps around the town and some key areas that we're interested in, along a lot of areas that have a potential for development nearby and aren't necessarily conserved. We're capturing in areas that are public, but bordering some A. Johnson lands or other areas that would be of higher interest for kind of development. Yeah, we've had some good results. We've had a wide array of course, a lot of deer, but then have some bobcats. We had a river otter by Bristol Pond. So some fun photos. Cool. Yeah, and down by the river too, we had a mink and do we have fisher? I don't know. I can't remember. No fisher yet, but we're hoping to get one. Yeah, and so that's been kind of ongoing trail work and field work we've been doing. And then we also have a survey that we just kind of finished, kind of doing some editing of and are about to publish next week on Front Porch Forum. And also I think we'll send out to you all to kind of distribute around just to gauge kind of community interest and knowledge in the area and wildlife in the town, and just kind of where people typically run into wildlife and where people live mostly too, and relate to wildlife, how they do that. Yeah, and then we also have along with that the report we're writing for you all, which also includes a lot of mapping and kind of some GIS work to kind of identify and represent the wildlife corridors and the key areas that are kind of that we want to advocate for preservation. So we've been working a lot on that. And then we have the public facing side we worked with Alex and as well of like having a pamphlet and kind of an online story map as well, of just recommendations for homeowners around how to interact with wildlife and ways to, maintain habitat on their own land, and some information too potentially about land easements and options too if like homeowners or landowners themselves want to get more involved and like search out some other protections. So we've kind of just continued to work on that, and yeah, things have been moving along well. It's been exciting that we've had some successful camera trapping that is in the field, and yeah, excited about the survey part too. Yeah.
I think it's also interesting, like, that we got like a few like indicator species,
Mhm.
like the minks, otters, and the bobcats, even in like these areas which are like bordering like transition boundaries from like disturbed lands to like cover forested land. So that was pretty cool.
Mhm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, you said you wanted to did you have anything you wanted to show us at this time? I had this email from you that said you had the following things you wanted to tell us about. He says, our sample information pamphlet to educate homeowners on wildlife, our sample survey to understand local awareness and interest on Bristol's wildlife, the status of our camera traps in terms of location results, and our preliminary maps to represent our collected camera trap data.
Yeah.
I don't know who emailed that to me, but someone emailed me that list and they said that's what you want to make sure you covered today.
Yeah. And we do have some of those. We kind of just have part of our report draft done today. So things are still in a very like draft phase, and being conscious of your all's time too, like we could send that afterwards too, kind of when that's approved on our end, if that's quicker and open to any feedback maybe. And then yeah, the survey link as well, and kind of that. I don't know if that would be more efficient. For you.
Shared.
Yeah. But I can also share my screen briefly with kind of some of the maps, I think, which are.
Yeah, let me make sure that's allowed on this.
Okay.
It's the town's computer, so let me make sure. Okay, all participants, you should be good to go now.
Yeah, totally. Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is kind of just taken from our report we've been working on, but looking at things like kind of the tree cover data overlaid onto the parcel map. Just kind of this allows us, it's definitely super small, so I apologize. Let me see if I can get this bigger. On the parcel map of Bristol, looking at percent tree cover on different individual landowners spots, and so like kind of then taking that and combining that with like public and private and conservation things, along with like we have a pretty high quality from the state as well, land cover data that's also can be we've kind of aggregated into this parcel level data, and I think a larger question we have too is if it's helpful for you all to have something that's more interactive and online, like we've seen other towns been doing with some of this, to kind of be able to scroll through some of these layers, or an aggregation cartographically is more helpful too. This is where all of our camera traps are so far. We also just put up one kind of up here by the settle on the hogback, but so we have some kind of in housing development up in Moncton, and then edge of town on Bristol Pond, and then by the Prairie Rock or along the river and edge of the wilderness area, and then kind of edge of town off of Upper Notch Road as well in the forest area, kind of the edge of some of the A. Johnson land there. Yeah, and then this is also kind of like an early draft of, I think, what bringing all this together will look like. We took the like track surveys that Sophie did for you all earlier, and kind of have those here along with the land parcels of people of ownership along those lines. So like the land parcels in red are along the high priority road crossings here, and then also highlighted some of the A. Johnson land that isn't zoned for conservation, and kind of the darker brown that is also along some of these contour lines. So kind of trying to overlay ownership and conservation and the data we're gathering in the field as well. It's kind of the overarching goal.
Very cool.
Any questions or like thoughts? I mean, yeah, definitely open to Any sorts of feedback?
I think just one note. I think probably staying out of listing particular landowners and so by name and so on like that would probably be just good for everybody's privacy and personal property rights. But what you've got, yeah, is as far as the general like gist of it all, that this is awesome and really super interesting information and is going to be hugely helpful to us.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think if you all too find it helpful to like have some of that data on the back end too, and then to maybe contact landowners, that's also something we could think about. And then have like for the presentational kind of more synthesized materials for the zoning board, kind of a more broad proposal.
Yeah.
Well, because it's public record, whether it's conserved or not, but I do see your point of like, it's weird to call specific owners out, so I'm gonna be careful with that.
Yeah, I think just like it could look, like looking at this particular map that we're looking at right now, it would be easy for particular landowners to feel kind of singled out in this, and I think that we should be cognizant of their feelings around that. But obviously, as you say, it's public record and so on, so it's not like I'm open to other feelings about that for sure.
Yeah,
What you brought up, Billy, about having like interactiveness and in these maps, I think that would be that's I don't know how you're totally out of my world there, so I don't know like how much of a pain that sort of thing is to accomplish, but I bet that would be just having like perused for instance the Cornwall maps that we were looking at the other day, like it seems so user friendly and so well, I guess user friendly is the word I'm looking for there. That could be super helpful if it's something that you guys are able to pull off.
Totally. I think it's doable as well because it is pretty easy to take it from what we're working in. I mean, I threw this kind of together quickly where you kind of can scroll through and then, I mean, it's really an early test of it, but like you come from just the Google image to like having the track lines or track survey that Sophie did on this map that you can then like zoom into as well. And then, land cover as well. So I think doing something like that where you could scroll through or like turn off and on layers, similar to like what Moncton has done as well. And this is also with a consulting group, so it's a little bit the higher end, but the college does have access to a lot of these online tools, which is fun. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes,
I'm wondering, Bailey, if you could elaborate a little bit more when I heard Cornwall, I heard Moncton, surrounding towns. So you're communicating with them and they've got some of their own work going on that we know a little bit about, but the intersection for that. And then second, Bristol's somewhat unique in that we are butting up against the national forest and the mountains. And so I didn't hear bear in any of your game cam photos. But anyway, there's three parts of that to respond to.
Yeah, I think those are really good points. For the Moncton and Cornwall, I think we kind of ran into these through other conversations with people at the college. The Cornwall project is one that another professor in the geography department has been like working on out of his professional time, and then also pointed us to like the Moncton kind of this page they have as well, because they're kind of doing some of the similar work at the same time, and I actually have like mapped some areas that are within Bristol, which is interesting. And so that's kind of just happened through connecting with other people, and then bears, I think we're hoping to like have that. I mean, we just put another camera up.
Yeah, maybe because like it's still like the hibernation period, like maybe bears have not waken up or something. Yeah, because we only set up the camera traps in early March till now. So maybe later there will be bears, but hopefully we see some.
Well, Front Porch Forum might be observing them before your cameras do.
And that's a good point. And I think actually, you all mentioned the page on it last time. of like animal sightings. And I think, yeah, having a way, we've been using like iNaturalist data as well. But honestly, some of those might be helpful to look at too, and more people might be using that.
So
as
I'm
we-
curious about the survey that you mentioned that you'll put on Front Porch Forum.
Yeah.
What you're asking of people and what time frame? I mean, you may be inundated with responses, or it might be 6 people writing about the bear that came to their bird feeder. But
Yeah.
are you interested in just this year? I just want to protect you from getting way too many responses, as well as getting the kind of information you want. It sounds like you want specific locations so that you can put those on the map, correct?
It's more general than that. I kind of misspoke. I was trying to pull up in the background, but wasn't loading. We've streamlined it a lot, and kind of the main questions are just trying to ask people within the past year what animals you've seen around your property. And because we're doing this from a scientific background, there's a control question as well of like which animal doesn't live in Vermont, and we have photos of different animals, and then one is an elk. Spoiler alert. And then what wildlife have you seen around your home in the last year? Listing common wildlife here along with the section for other, and then we kind of after that just ask a like multiple choice matrix about your people's feelings and concern about wildlife and conservation in the town and habitat, just to kind of get a gauge on that. And then all of those have an optional section for people to elaborate. And I think the nice thing is with some of that like checkbox data, the more responses we get, the better. But yeah, could be, I think, and then hopefully too, we have a lot of space too for people to respond with their own feedback and information about our upcoming meeting as well, where they can come in public as well too.
So it sounds like, Brian and Billy, that essentially you're shooting for certain feedback, but you could end up with more, a broader sort of scope. For instance, I hear these owls. I have not seen the owls. And then I'm told that there's a woodcock that is not too far away. Have not seen that, but according to the app, so there's going to be there could be, if you wanted to have an extra question, to get more information, which may be helpful down the line, but not germane to your specific focus.
Yeah. And I think we're definitely going to narrow it down to like what we're confident people saw and they're somewhat confident too, as well, to be more conservative. But I think regardless, everything we're doing, the idea is to share with you all too, to kind of continue forward with too. Yeah.
Great. And then speaking of sharing, I'd really like to discuss while we have you, just for a few minutes, what you envision that presentation day being like. We can offer you anywhere from 20 to 90 minutes, so whatever it is you want to do, so I want to see what you think and what we are able to support, and we can kind of go from there. So what were you envisioning we could do for that? And would you be advertising that? And, will we have posters, or do you want us to do, what can we do? And what do you want?
Yeah, I think we are really excited to like share the results with Bristol, because this project is for the town of Bristol anyways. So yeah, we were thinking like we could present like maybe around 30 minutes about what we have done, and then we could leave like considerable time for like questions, because I think that's very interesting, like to have people ask about our work, and I think that might be a way to like get to more details of what we have done and in accordance with like the interests of the residents. Yeah. Regarding advertisement, yeah, I think it would be great if like you guys can help us to advertise. Yeah, we would love to like share it to as many people as possible.
Yeah. And I think we're happy to like, I mean, we can put together a poster quickly. We have a little logo for our team as well. So but I think, yeah, we'll be up there checking cameras, but distribution is helpful for sure if you all have networks for that.
Yeah, are you gonna have like posters you can hang up? in like downtown?
Yeah, we could make some. I mean, I think that would be doable for us.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to put the survey, like a QR code to your
Yeah.
survey on there too.
And that was already, yeah, a thought we'd had, so.
Just checking the size of the poster is like a normal A3, right? Should be.
Like a piece of paper.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if you wanted to do something, we could even, I don't know, we could put it in the library, we could tell the schools about it, you know, I mean, if you emailed it, we could probably email it to the school at least. There's 3 schools in town, plus some preschools, so, we could help you get those out maybe, or you could send those out, certainly. Front Porch Forum, if you sent us info, we could post it for you, because I don't think you can post it Front Porch Forum, right?
I'm unsure.
But if you email things to Alex or me, we can post them for you, right?
It has to be someone in Bristol to post on Bristol's Front Porch
Yeah.
Forum,
Okay.
but we could do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're envisioning a 30-minute presentation and then like about 30 minutes of Q&A, is that correct?
Yeah.
And then I think that I forgot who, someone in the group had asked if we could do it in person, is that right?
Yeah, we talked about that, and I think would like to if we can, and would work for our schedules.
Okay, what do we think about that? Should we just offer that we just do it in this room, or where I am, the room I'm in, or should we try to do upstairs? Like, is there interest, you think, for people to go upstairs? What are your thoughts? I really don't know about that one.
Probably would depend on the number of folks. I mean, I don't know if there's any way we can get a handle on how many people we'd expect to join.
Mhm.
If it's less than 30 could fit in that room, but if it's more than 30, we'd want to get upstairs.
Mm-hmm. I
There
don't
might
know
be
how well we could do
conflicting-
like a hybrid, or would it be only in person? How do you feel about that?
Hybrid might
Really,
get more
Brian,
people.
Could you do, would hybrid work for you?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we did hybrid, we could probably fit in this room, right? Because people like the ease of clicking on Zoom.
Yep.
So we get in here and we could do a PowerPoint that's shared through this laptop. I'm on this Town of Bristol laptop, right?
Hmm.
And then you could present that through Zoom, but it'd be in the room. And then you don't know what's in this room, but okay. There we go. You're like up on this thing as well, in the middle of the room for people to see. But then it's this owl situation, so when I talk, it pulls back to me. It's for being a little small town and a little town hall, it's a pretty good hybrid setup. I
Mm.
think.
That's great.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah.
We could do that, right? What do you think about that? BCCs, that sound doable with people?
Mhm.
Okay.
And what is the date and time of this presentation? I know I should know this, but I don't remember.
It's gonna be our next meeting. So it'll be May 9th at 6 PM.
Okay,
And then we'll decide if we want to do like a short business portion at 7 to 7:30 or not. I don't know if that's gonna be feasible. Maybe we can keep thinking about that makes sense or not. I don't know.
okay.
Or we could just have some BCC announcements, like the how many grant day bags there were is like a little side piece. We'll have to think about how that agenda is gonna look and what makes sense. Or if it's just like, we just do our only business for May is that. I don't really know. Anyone have thoughts on that?
You can kind of see how it goes and how much needs to be on the agenda at the time.
Yeah, that's
I like
fine,
that.
as long as we schedule anything for June today, which hopefully we'll have time for, so maybe we should move on and talk to Meredith. And we'll see how we feel about what we're talking about and what needs to go on that agenda, right? So for
Thank you, Brian and Bailey.
Of course.
yeah,
Thank
Brian
you.
Bailey,
Wait,
anything
before
else?
wait,
Any other
sorry,
questions?
before you go, Brian, what is your last name and how do you spell it?
Oh, my last name is Lee, so it's Lee.
Okay, that's simple enough. Thank you.
Is there anything else you need from us? Otherwise, you can email, me and Alex, and we can help you with any questions you have as we get closer to date, but
Yeah,
does that
no, I
sound
think
good?
and yeah, we'll be in contact with.
Yeah, and we'll just need to be partners so we can advertise this thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
Well, thank you so much for your help. This is really exciting stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Fighting
Yeah.
as well.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Okay, so anyone have anything else? We need to move on then to parks updates. I'm going to text Meredith right now so she can join. And then we can also be talking about things to get ready. Yeah, who said
I
something?
got a really quick thing to interject there, Carolyn, just before we get totally off the
Yeah,
subject of
totally.
that thing. One thing I wanted to say to you guys, as you may be wondering why we have sites that are outside the town of Bristol. The reason for that is that we're a little bit limited on where we're able to do camera trap research there. So those are in either larger systems, landforms that form corridors that are on the line, as in the Notch Road area there, where we have permission to trap that's just on the Lincoln side of the line, but it's the same corridor basically, or a couple of habitat types that we have access to trapping in that are replicated within the town of Bristol that we don't have access to trapping in. So if you're wondering what the heck we're doing with cameras in Moncton for this whole project, that's that's the answer to that question.
Yeah, that's helpful. I was wondering about that. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah. Well, it's just something like Bristol Pond is like right on the line, for instance, but
Right.
where the real the corridor is sort of a greater thing, but where we can actually get cameras is on the Moncton side of the line. And there's a few things like that. The Notch Road's the same thing. Like we have permission to trap. We have a permit from the National Forest, but not from the private landowners. So it's all the same ridge that is
Yep.
the funnel really is like a 150-yard wide ridge, and we have permission on the Lincoln side of it. But I still felt like it was pertinent information because it's the same. It's all the same corridor really. We're talking about feet difference. And then the Moncton, the farther north Moncton one, we kind of wanted to have a camera in a development.
Yep.
That had these thin strips of timber connecting property areas. And we just had a very convenient spot there that we didn't have access to, though there are several developments of very similar sizes and shapes in Bristol, but we had access to that one, and it felt like that was replicatable data that could be used when we're talking about like that sort of type of subdivision and what goes on there. It felt useful and pertinent to this project.
Yep. That makes sense.
And Alex, I just want to say thank you. And you've done so much work with these guys. And I was seeing all these
so much
emails.
fun.
It's still like having a lot of fun, which is awesome.
It's a blast. We're wandering around a lot of my favorite spots to wander around, and I like that. I have an excuse to. So
Awesome.
The kids are awesome
for a reason, right?
Yeah, right. They're putting a lot of work into this. The students are. And I've been just beyond fired up about that. That's been a blast.
Yeah, I haven't even seen I heard they had like an AI logo and team name, and they're all proud of
super
Bristol.
legit.
So cool.
Frighteningly legit.
So cool. Well, thank you for doing that. And then I'm excited to see the presentation, and it'll be really fun to see what they're up to. I mean, it's just so exciting to see it, but also like I also want the data too to be like, okay, and now what? What's the next step? So
that is the question.
Yeah. Okay, so we really should turn our attention here to our parks updates. This is agenda item B. So we have discussion of Frisbee golf with Meredith McFarland. She and Zach are at the rec club right now. They're trying to Zoom, they said. So I've texted her, and we're waiting to see some information from that. So we'll wait and see if they join. Do we want to talk about our Sycamore workday site visit and debrief with you guys did the apple trees? You talked to Meredith. Helen and Jono, you were there, and we weren't able to debrief about this in March. I was wondering if you had anything you wanted to tell us about that day briefly.
Helen, you could start.
We walked around with Meredith, partly with the intent of figuring out whether no-mow made any sense there and how to make it work. But in the process, ended up spending a fair amount of time talking about the edge of the lawn versus forest / Japanese knotweed. And so she got pretty fired up about trying to control the knotweed, trying to limit the progression of knotweed into the lawn. And she was going to talk to the people who did the landscaping about what they could do. And Jono, you can fill in because you were more heavily invested in that part of the conversation than I was.
Sure. So there was a couple of different ways to approach it, but one was to take a brush hog, go in on the perimeter where there tends to be the knotweed and other brush, and try and keep that at bay by going in whatever. I mean, they might have a 4 foot, or excuse me, 5 foot brush hog. It's hard to know what the dimensions were. We didn't have that information, but that would be the first step, and go around the whole perimeter of the park, and particularly when and where they could get out towards the river, because those are rather narrow swaths, and it just kind of canopies in there. Um, and then the idea of the mowing section was from the edge to the width of their mower, which I'm going to guess is probably somewhere, and again, maybe 4 to 5 feet wide, which would allow 2 or more people to walk abreast around the perimeter of the park. So that's the way we left it. And then looking at Meredith's email, finally hearing back from the landscape outfit, what it seems like is they're going to brush hog the perimeter, and sort of approach the no mow May aspect at the entrance to the park, which is oddly, I think, in reverse of what I think would be better, because it makes a little bit more sense if you're going to have some open lawn that's going to be cut, maybe do it there, because that's the entrance to the park and it's a smaller amount. But nonetheless, they were going to leave sections of lawn in the center there uncut. But further back in the park, as I understood the email, they were going to cut that. And probably in their mind, that's just easy to do. So if anybody did want to have a picnic or something back there, there's not just trails. There would be a big open section pretty much in that area where the apple trees are, which is the most wide open spot. And potentially, I would say to the left where the river is before it kind of hits that confluence. So that's my understanding of where things are at this point. It'd be interesting for Meredith to, further define that. So I think that's a good place to start. We have achieved 2 things: trying to keep the knotweed at bay, and if anything, maybe there's a plan once it's cut down, not only just to do it once a year, but to maybe maintain it throughout the season, particularly up through to, I'd say, July, because it tends to do most of its growing and having the effect up to about that point. I think less so August on, and then having a fair amount in paths that are going to be mowed, but then there will be sections that are going to be cut completely down in the bigger areas in the back of the park, is the way I think I understood it.
Yeah, I think we need to hear from Meredith about what she learned from the landscaping people and what their thoughts are. I mean, all we know is that they are suggesting that the front section, but how big is a section, it is the no mow zone for May. And then they'll start mowing it in May, but I don't know what they're talking about. So that's kind of vague.
Let's make sure that we get those no mow signs out so people understand why there's a spot there, and maybe get some front porch forum posts to explain, like, this is what's happening in the front of the park, but the back of the park is still open. We could help that out. That'd be something that one of you would be able to do, since you're excited about no mow May stuff.
Well, Nancy has the signs, or did
Oh,
the
that's
signs
right.
last time. But yeah, I'm happy to post something on Front Porch Forum.
That'd be
Like
great.
a
Yeah.
couple times in May, twice in May, maybe.
Perfect. Yeah. And then we'll get Nancy to put some signs in there.
So briefly, just to finish up, as far as the apple trees, the smaller ones, I'll call it the mini grove, I guess. Helen and I were there, and we proceeded to go ahead and and start pruning those. It was a much easier job from the first go around. And I know Helen put in a good chunk of time, and then I stayed a little bit longer. So those were more or less all done. One thing I did not do was have time, because I ran out of daylight, to pick up the branches from the cut. So that would be a follow-up. And then second, there's 2 larger apple trees that, again, with running out of daylight and quite honestly not keeping up with what I intended to do, was to get back there, prune the larger apple trees. I don't think that's going to be, I should be able to still fit that in maybe within this month. The fact that it's later than what would typically be the case is, I don't think it's going to have an impact.
Yeah.
So that's where the apple tree summation is.
Cool. Thank you for doing that work and everything. Yeah, that's great. Would we want to have a Sycamore work day to plan a work day? And if so, we should do that now or
Let me
via
intervene.
email.
Let me intervene briefly. Porter
Yeah.
said that she is perfectly happy for some of her interns to spend part of a day, and she was suggesting April, weeding the pollinator garden, which is
That's
a
right,
lot of
pollinator
what
garden.
we did last time. So if they can do that and she and I can supervise and help, then we're done with that. She hasn't gotten back to me with dates yet, but I think
Okay.
we'll work on that. So if we, as a group, decide to plan a work day, it probably won't include the pollinator.
Okay. That sounds good. I saw the kiosk glass was slid sort of open. The last couple days, it's been several inches open on both sides. It was too heavy for me to push. I didn't want to break anything because I wasn't sure why it was open. So, maybe I'll just tell Meredith about that. But do people think we need a work day over there this spring, or what would you do? What needs doing? Are the birdhouses okay?
Birdhouses are fine.
Like, is there something we need to do, or we just gotta focus on Eagle? Because Eagle is just like so much right now.
Could I
What are your thoughts
suggest
on
that once Helen Porter and the interns take a look at the pollinator garden, that maybe Helen might sort of do a quick walk around and say, there's a couple things that occurred to her. I had a friend that did clean out all of the bird boxes, and
My gosh, that's great.
she put in a good, healthy amount of time. But I suspect that the landscape guys, there should be more down limbs because of the windstorms if they actually went through there. But I don't seem to remember a whole lot of that being an issue, Helen, when we were there.
Me neither. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'll just focus on Eagle Park unless we decide we need something. If we see a need, so there's a lot of landscape guys going. People have been volunteering their own time, so maybe we can wait on that then and just focus on Eagle, because I do know there's a lot to Eagle stuff.
And I bet you Kristen will have some thoughts there, because we have way more to consider than usual because of the recent work having probably been completed.
Okay.
That's right. So maybe since we haven't heard from Meredith yet, it would be time to talk about Eagle then. What do you think about that, Kristen? Is that good for you?
Sure. I can just share my screen real quick.
I think you should be able to. And just to remind everyone, Eagle Park, the garden has been, there was a lot of construction there. And so now we have to think about what kind of garden we'll be putting back in and what to do. And so we're going to try to make a plan for how we might envision a garden and fixing it. Unlike normal years, we just sort of tidy things. This year is a bigger deal.
Yeah. So they, hopefully you can see my screen here. They fixed the platform and poured the new ramp. And in the process of doing that, they removed all the boulders that used to be here. These boulders are all still intact, and they replaced the boulders around the kiosk. Next week, the split rail fence is scheduled to be installed. I'm meeting Roy Schiff at Eagle Park tomorrow at noon, and anyone's welcome to, for the express purpose of laying out where the fence is gonna go. And when they replaced the concrete ramp, they actually widened the ramp a little bit in the sense that they backfilled around the concrete with some bigger stones. So it used to be that the perennial garden reached all the way down almost to the concrete. And now we've lost maybe 3 feet or so of width of the perennial garden. And then if the split rail fence encroaches a little bit on the perennial garden, we're basically shrinking the width of this perennial garden by, I don't know, 5 feet maybe. I was there today. They reshaped the land surface there and spread a mulch to control erosion. Not grass seed, but like a hay mulch. And the perennials are poking up through.
Wow.
So they're very hardy. At least the irises are starting to poke up through. So I think we're going to have some remnants of a perennial garden here coming up in the next week or two. And then I just had the thought, if we're going to need, if someone's going to need to access the ramp to maintain it in future years, we may want to think about moving the pollinator garden over to maybe these rocks. This, of course, is what it looked like before. This is now wider, and so we only have about maybe 2/3 of the original width of the perennial garden remaining, because they've taken up a little bit of space with the boulder fill.
Yep.
And it all looks great, and it's going to be much more functional as a ramp to the platform, but we might want to consider instead moving some perennials over to this part of the park, or not. We may just want to maintain what we've got in that one spot and know that it's going to be smaller than it was in the past. So that's my thoughts, and I'm open to suggestions.
Those photos are really helpful. I'm glad you have them. The fact that they've widened it, it was always hard to maintain that steep slope in terms of removing knotweed, but not removing perennials. And it was kind of, it was lovely, but sloppy. And now we don't have to worry about it,
Right.
which is kind of nice.
Yeah. The other thing I forgot to
there will
mention
be
is-
all sorts of stuff that ends up growing in and amongst those boulders, though.
Yeah. There already are some clumps of perennials like mixed in here that are starting to take root, but
So we should decide if we want to transplant those onto the level top part, or let that boulder section become vegetated.
yeah, and this the split rail is going to go in about here.
Yeah.
Split rail fence. And my other thought was maybe dig up all the perennials from here and just make this grass. Might be easier to maintain, or maybe that's too much trouble because these perennials are going to pop through. And
Yeah, we could just let it go, let it be what it's going to be.
let it be.
Not even talk about it as a perennial garden. It's just a garden. It's just stuff that's there, but we're not going to.
Officially.
Yeah. I mean, we do
Wasn't
have
there wasn't there a whole bunch more to replant that was stored down in the back? Sorry to interrupt, Helen.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning. I wonder what % of those survived. My suspicion is not very many, but maybe.
I don't think very many. I did take a quick look today, and I'll look more closely tomorrow. Our intention at the time was they would only be down there for about a week or two, and then we'd immediately replant them. But then they overwintered, and we didn't really protect them when they overwintered. So I don't think there's going to be much to salvage.
Right. So if you could take a look at them and get an idea how many we need to do something with. We could always transport them to Sycamore Park.
We totally could. Yep.
And all those pots are Jono's, and I suspect he wants them back, right?
That would be nice.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Let's just remember where they came from.
Kristen, I'm wondering about some site history here. Why was that garden put in? And then functionally, if we didn't do anything with it, would it be mowed on that strip? Are we going to be edging around the split rail fence? Like what? I'm just thinking pragmatically, like how do we maintain this, or why was that spot chosen in the first place? Was it because of maintenance? When you say it's a narrower strip now, but it's flat, that could be nice for a garden if it's saving people mowing around there. So I was just wondering what you thought about those ideas.
Yeah, I'm not entirely remembering the history. It was donated by spacing the name, the nursery that's at the
Rocky Dale.
Rockydale Nursery. Thank you. They donated the materials and the labor and the design. They actually laid the design out for that perennial garden originally. And Pete Domenico was instrumental in getting that volunteer labor. I think it was just to have a nice setting for the platform.
Yeah, and it was really beautiful.
It was.
Yeah, for sure. And it would be difficult, like if we just decided this was all going to be grass, then someone would have to weed whack it probably, or push mow it, and we'd have to talk to the landscapers about that, but it might add to their workload, particularly if it needs to be weed whacked rather than mowed.
And what's that on there now is mulch, did you say?
It's like a straw mulch just to control erosion, but
Are there other seeds in it though? Like not like hay, right?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
I think it's and they rolled it as they left the site. They kind of shaped that area and rolled it because they were all their heavy equipment was back and forth over this whole perennial garden to lay this stone and maintain the slab. So we're gonna just have to see, I think, what survived and what pops up through the soil.
If there's a split rail fence put up, that's going to require probably some weed whacking around the base of the posts and a lot more maneuvering.
Or mulching.
Well, we always put mulch around the boulders before, and that seemed okay, right?
Would be mulch around the split rail fence. Yep.
Yeah. That's
So right now it's mulch, and they're gonna put the fence in, then there'll be mulch around the fence, and we could maneuver in there and just do our same thing we've always done, only the plants are mostly dead. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, to be seen, remains to be seen.
Okay.
There's a few of them poking up through, so they're pretty hardy apparently.
Yeah, let's give it at least a season and see what happens.
Yep.
Should we do something? Should we ask Rockydale, for example, if they would have maybe end of, I don't know when people, I'm so bad at garden stuff. So maybe like, is there like a season people buy things at the end of the season? Could they donate things that no one bought or something? Would that be something we could ask them about? Are there things we could plant from seed that we could put there that are perennial?
The one thing we do have is there was, when Pete Domenico passed, there was a call for donations to a fund in his memory. And those funds are still being held. They amount to about close to $4,000, and they're being held in an account dedicated to the fund by the Addison County Riverwatch Collaborative. Nice. And so my thought would be, we see how these plants survive, understand if there are holes or gaps that need filling with new plants, and then ask the kind of ad hoc committee that formed around the Pete Memorial, and that includes people like Dave Sharp and Dave Henderson and others, if they think it would be a suitable use of those funds to kind of tidy up the garden. Like,
yeah, that's lovely.
But if that is going to be trampled by vehicles that might need to access the Side
slab
note,
again.
I'd hate to invest money only to have it be destroyed.
Right, right. That's a good thought
Well,
too.
how long was the garden there before, right? How long has that
I-
garden been there, do you think?
About 10 years, 2013.
Okay,
It's also possible to get donations of plants for sure. People are
Yeah.
always splitting their bulbs and especially in the
Yep.
fall.
Yep.
Yeah.
We can make a
Spring.
call for that on Front Porch Forum or something. Yep.
I bet Rockydale would be receptive too. They're great folks. They actually helped
Yeah.
us out by letting us access behind their property to hang a couple cameras for our mapping
Nice.
project. They're
Excellent.
good folks.
Okay, cool.
okay, so
Um,
for now, in terms of action then, do we want to do anything or are we just
No.
waiting? Like, are we
No, I
gonna
think we should
schedule?
just wait. I think we
Okay.
should, that's my opinion. I think we
Yep.
should just,
Okay, that's fine then.
Because-
So we're not gonna schedule any work days this meeting, which we were planning on scheduling a handful. Now we're going to 0, but I'm okay with that, so make sure we all agree. I'm getting some thumbs up. Okay.
how about a late
What are the
May
thumbs?
or early June workday to be scheduled if we need it at this spot with like mulch, I'm thinking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I
So
think we
maybe
have-
schedule the official day on maybe we can do official, we can email to schedule that and then send a Front Porch Forum post about for people to join if they want and publicly announce we'll be doing that. Does that sound okay with
Yeah.
everyone?
That
Okay, so
sounds
if
good.
we do that, we'll decide that by email and then we'll inform the public.
Yeah,
Okay, great. So that sounds good. Okay, great. I don't know if we're going to have Meredith come on. So I think that at this point, we should move on. If we don't hear from her at time at the end, maybe we could at least talk about her PowerPoint that she sent us. But it feels weird to talk about it without them, because I don't think they intended for us to look at their PowerPoint without them narrating it. So I want to be the spirit of what they wanted. So maybe we'll just table that for now. Does that sound good with everyone? So we'll table the Frisbee golf thing.
I have 2 brief parks points as well, if we're not.
Oh, great. Yeah, Parks Points. Yeah.
One is that the accessibility kickoff meeting is tomorrow, and I think a few of us are on that email and are probably going to attend, just to let folks know. And then finally, we've had a request from the Addison County River Watch Collaborative folks. If they could, they're designing some riparian plantings at rivers along the Middlebury River, but also along the Lemonfair River. And they're in need of willow cuttings. And these are just 1 to 2 foot long chunks of willow that you stick in the ground and they sprout and start to create new willow plants. And they asked if they could take those cuttings from the willow plants at the Saunders River access. That's willow all the way around that stabilized bank, and that willow originally came from another site on the Middlebury River that the New Haven River anglers allowed us to cut from. So I told them I would make the request in front of this group, and personally, I don't see any issues with it. And cutting the willow trees on Saunders will not harm the Saunders willow trees, and it's a way to kind of pay it forward to another restoration planting site.
Well, yeah, it'll make the willows more vigorous at Saunders.
That too. It'll actually help them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If that
Sounds good.
requires,
Win-win.
if that requires a vote, I'm all in favor. And if they need more, I have some on my property.
Okay, I can let them know. Okay.
I don't know if
Folks have
that needs a,
Folks think
does that
that's
need a
okay?
vote? It doesn't need a vote, does it? I think that's just fine, right?
Okay, I can let them
mean-
know. Thank you.
Okay, great. Where are we now? Okay, so we're gonna officially table the Frisbee golf thing. Okay, anything we want to talk about with No Mow May? Anything else to talk about that? We've already talked a little bit about the the front part of Sycamore Park. Nancy, I have a note to email Nancy to tell her about signs out. We'll have signs we'll be handing out at Green Up Day if people want them. At least that was the plan we'd made a while ago. I wish Nancy was here to finalize that, but I'll ask her about that. I'll ask her in the same email if she's going to come to Green Up Day and hand signs out. And then, is that everything for that? For No Mow May? Are we good there? Okay. Okay, great. And we'll just send out someone, maybe Helen, Nancy, send out emails about like, remember it's No Mow May and all that. Great. Okay, Green Up Day is May 4th. We're doing, Meredith's gonna help host a box out on the porch like we've done a few times now. So we can collect things, and then we're going to be doing the table on the green. It's May 4th on Saturday, and so I'll do, I forgot what I said, 8 to noon or something, passing bags out on the day of, and then also, there'll be bags available the week before. I'll be dropping bags and gloves off at BES. They requested, in the past, they've said they provide their own gloves. This year, we got those from Green Up Day, as well as extra prizes for more kids, because those were lacking. So we were able to get a whole bunch of goodies for them, like pencils and stickers and stuff. So we'll be doing that, giving them way more gloves than usual. And yeah, sort of just the normal thing. There's a lot of trash out there this year. Sycamore's really gross. I was just out there, like worse than usual from flooding, I think. We've had so many floods since last Green Up Day, over the summer, in December, January. I mean, we've just had, there's sand all over that park in places that are unusual. And so I think we just had a lot of stuff float in there. So I'm hopeful I can ship people over there when they come up to the table and be like, it'd be great, go to that beautiful park and get that out of there. So anyhow, but yeah, focusing on the parks and the roadside litter and stuff. Thoughts on Green Up Day? Anyone plan to sit out at the table with me? Just
I'll
let
come
me
by.
know.
I'll come.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll I'll get a table from Meredith and in Holly Hall and carry it across the street and put it out there. And maybe I'll email like ahead of time and be like, hey, like it's this week, who's gonna help? Or maybe do shifts or something. People want to come for a couple hours or something, that'd be great. Does that sound okay with everyone? Any other thoughts about Green Up Day? Cool.
When,
okay, I have all the bags and everything already in my garage. Yeah, Jono.
When is it that you have people that register? For instance, I've got Hewitt Road all done. I can't remember in the past, I probably just mentioned it in passing at with the meeting, but how do you have a gauge of what areas people have decided to sort of take on and so on?
Yeah, we just have a sheet that I have, like a little sheet that like hangs in front of the bags. It's like a clipboard you have to lift up to grab things from.
Oh,
And so
all right.
I love the cat, by the way, Alex. That's really funny.
Can you see the cat?
Yes.
No, geez, get out of here, man. I got a reputation to hold.
So I have this like clipboard that people can lift up and then take bags out, and the clipboard says like, I forgot what exactly, like how many people are in your party, how many bags are you taking, and where are you going, and about how many miles do you think you'll do, something like that, because I'm supposed to collect data for Green Up Day, and that's the kind of stuff they want to know. So the only way you know where to go is either just wherever you want to go, or if you bothered, you could look through and see where people have done it before. But there's no formal mechanism for that.
Is that also when people can pick up at the town hall and so on, aside
That's
from
the
the
town
actual...
hall. That's the town hall plan. Yeah. And then in person on that day, I'll be like,
Okay.
where are you headed to today? And I would say 25% of people say, I don't know. What do you think? And I'll have like, okay, I heard this pull-off's bad. I heard this junction's bad. Mostly people just want to do areas they know that have been on their radar that they know are kind of gross.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. I've tried to think of more formal ways to do. I think Green Up Day would like us to be more formal. There's ways they want us to use social media and like kind of like call areas and plot the town. And I just didn't know if we were up for that. And so I haven't gone down dealing with that. Also, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of like a lack of consistency with some of that through Green Up Day. So I don't want to start teaching everyone in town, this is our new system, and then have a new system 2 years later. And it's just, that's frustrating. And so I just want to make sure we're really careful with our messaging to make sure it's very consistent and very clear. So people feel comfortable to volunteer and not throw in like, oh yeah, there's this app, and be like, well, what app? And how do I just want to, why give people an excuse not to help? So I'm just trying to make it very clean and very easy for people to
seems
grab a
to
bag
me
and help.
that it's worked very well for very, very many years, that
Mhm.
people who are driving along and see lots of filled green bags probably drive a little further before they start collecting trash. So by the
Yeah.
end of it, the roadsides are pretty clean.
Yeah, I think it's working pretty well. And as the Green Up Day has a lot of emails they send me about things they want me to get doing. And I'm like, oh, I just want to, I'm resistant to change because I have to, it's like a cruise ship, you know, and you got to be sure you can't, it's slow to maneuver, right? So, you know, one thing they want is they want everyone to sign a pledge this year for the Guinness Book of World Records. And I'm like, I have people to sign this pledge and mail it back within 24 hours. And I'm just not interested in explaining that to the entire town repeatedly for what gain, right? So if you would like to sign the pledge, you can, but I'm not going to be peddling the pledge. I just want to get the garbage up, you know. So.
Yeah.
That's what's happening with that. So, but yeah, Green Up Day will be before I talk to you next. So I'm just going to be going ahead with that, and I'll email about like, hey, can anyone come say hi and hang out with me? That'd be nice. We'll see what the weather is too. That really swings how much garbage gets picked up.
Yeah.
Okay, the vulnerability mapping index was something that John wanted to talk about, and he isn't here again 2 months in a row, so he was not able to talk about that. So I guess we can continue to defer that or
Yeah.
drop that from the agenda until he asks to put it on.
Yep.
Conservation Commission membership, we have a vacancy for 1 member. We changed the website to say there was a vacancy, and I believe there must have been a mix-up when we posted some other edits, and that was reinstated that Noel was on the list. So that's now been taken off again, and now it should reflect that there's a vacancy on there. So technological glitch there that was included, I believe. All right, and now I'd like to talk about some new business. No, yeah, please go for it.
Interject just briefly. I think Jim Puglino, I'm not sure if I remember, he mentioned was checking
He's right
with me
there.
today.
He's right in the room.
Oh, I do see him. Did I pronounce his name correctly? Well, so I'm not sure if the meeting got posted on Front Porch Forum. Is that accurate?
Oh, you're muted, Smiths.
Yes.
It did, but it was late.
Yeah, it's on the Front Porch Forum.
Yeah, so apparently it didn't, Jim was something that didn't go out until today, just to make sure that goes out earlier, and the clerk didn't post it either, apparently. So just to make sure we're I sent that to the clerk on Monday, and it was the eclipse and things were a little zany. So but the last couple months, Jim's noticed that hasn't been going out within 48 hours, just to make sure. And I'll talk to the town clerk and make sure that that's getting posted appropriately as well.
Okay, I didn't realize it had to be 48 hours earlier.
Yeah, there was some concern about that. So
okay,
all good. Okay, cool. So are we good for new business items? Okay, new business items. I want to talk to you about budget. We've talked about the budget a lot, but we often don't have numbers for the budget. We finally have a new treasurer. And so I was able to speak with Justin. It was very easy, actually. Usually I get the runaround for the last 2 treasurers we've had. I've had a hard time getting information from them. They've been really, really busy. But I had got an email from Justin, the new treasurer, about an email that he had found for me from a while ago. And he said that he was happy to meet and wanted to discuss things, and sent me what looked to be our budget. And I just had a lot of questions. So I emailed back, and we had a meeting 18 hours later. I mean, he was just like on it. So we had this meeting, and I thought it would be about a 15-minute meeting. It was an hour-long meeting. And there was just a lot of things, I think, that they're still trying to figure out with the budget. Things are coded in strange ways or unexpected ways. Different people have their own tricks or mental ways they do things. We've had several treasurers coming in, so there's been things that have fallen through the cracks or that weren't assigned the way other people had thought they were. So just to go through a couple of the accounts, and I can talk to you about this. I have the account numbers now. So that means in the future, when we say, oh, put it on the operating budget or the ES stock trust money, we can have the account number now. And then we can say like this, we have $35 of seeds we want assigned to this account. So that's going to make things a lot easier. So I have those numbers saved and I can share those with people as needed. So I talked about the ES stock balance. It took us a while to find that on the books. We did eventually find it, and I do have the code, so we can find it in the future by the code much quicker. It was under like Edith, it was like Edith Bird something, or it was look, we found it though. The balance was at that time, or is right now, $3,940.64. But no interest has been applied in at least 2 years. So we're waiting then for the interest which is owed to that account to be applied from a few years now. That interest, I'm not exactly sure, seems as though it goes into a main fund of interest and then it gets like divvied out. And that has not happened in some time. So we're just going to wait and hope that that interest gets applied. The Conservation Reserve Fund is listed at about $63,000. I was concerned that that number seemed too low based on the last estimate that I had for that a couple of years ago. And when we looked at it, it seems as though it has been allocated $10,000, which should be paid in July of 24. However, I thought that still seemed low. So we looked back and the $10,000 allocation was forgotten in July of 23. So the town will be correcting that and allocating 10,000 as the voters approved on last year's budget. So that should go on once they figure out how to do that. The operating budget is complicated, very complicated, because we have so many little things in there. It looks like we had been allocated $350 for, I don't know how far back. I went through many town reports. It looks like we were allocated $350 for a long time. And that it changed to $200 according to the town report 2 years ago.
Huh.
We were never notified about that. I looked into the TA reports and the minutes of the select board, and I couldn't find any reference to it. And in fact, budget season of the year when it was switched does not have any posted minutes or TA reports. So I don't know when they changed it. I don't even know if they did change it, because it turns out the treasurer's office has for a decade been allocating $300 to our operating budget, which is neither of those amounts. So that is something that I'm going to be continuing to talk to them about. And what I think is important to do is just talk to the select board at some point before budget season, maybe in the fall. And once we figure some of these loose ends out, and just say, we really need the $300 back, because it seems like there was some confusion over whether or not we were using our budget or not, because things were being allocated in other places. So for example, there's a $50 auto pay from Green Up Day on our account that's been paid for 10 years. Although the codes were slightly incorrect, it's unclear if Green Up Day received the funds or not. There does seem to be in the town budget an allocation for Green Up Day, so hopefully we can get that moved on to the Green Up Day allocation and not our operating budget. But again, we're still working on these things. We are supposed to, or we like to support the AVCC, the Association of Vermont Conservation Commissions, and that has a dues every year of $50. That has been paid very sporadically, sometimes twice in a year, some years, 2 years, 3 years in a row, not paid. And so we're going to try to get on track and pay that every January. Now we have a new budget system in place. The Neat Repeats grant from last year went to a grants fund, and we were never we were never given the credit for that. So we just went negative for all that money for the reimbursements because they never credit our money with the grant money. And the tracking connection was supposed to be on last year's fiscal year. It appears to be on this year's fiscal year, and the books have been closed for last year's fiscal year. So it's unclear whether or not we can use that this year. So it's a lot of loose ends and strings mixed, and we're just trying to wade through all of that. I'm hopeful that Justin already in like 1 hour has given us so much more insight on what's happening with the budgets. They're very small budgets. I'm sure the town doesn't really care. But it does seem important to try to sort of sort it out at least somewhat so that we have some clarity and that we know how much we can spend going forward. I know that we talk about it and we say, oh yeah, we've spent this much on this year. We try to be really fiscally responsible and try to spend just 300 each year and things or whatever. And so I just feel, we've been trying to do so good on our end, and it was surprising to see the numbers were kind of a jumble on the town's end. So we'll keep working on that with Justin and make sure we have some clarity going forward with those issues.
Carolyn, what is the Conservation Reserve Fund used for?
Well, that's an absolutely wonderful question. If you were to look on our webpage, we created a informational document about the Conservation Reserve Fund under documentation. The Conservation Reserve Fund is a fund that is used by the select board. It was approved by the voters of the town, and where there's an annual appropriation of $10,000 to be used by the select board for the purpose of, and I have it right here, land acquisition, conservation easements, and or interest in property that achieve the Bristol Town Plan's conservation objectives. Kristen and I pulled together some numbers to put this document together. We explained the history of it, some of the things we've used it for over the history of having this fund, and then determine some of the ways that we've been able to leverage these funds, and determined that for every dollar spent on the Conservation Reserve Fund, the town has been able to leverage $11 in grant monies from the state and federal agencies, as well as private and corporate donors. So it's really, really good return on money. And it's something that's only been used, when we're dealing with land acquisition, conservation easements, and other property interests, not bird boxes and stuff, or education, like just strictly for land uses.
Okay.
So yeah, and we have a list of different uses that we've used those funds for on that PDF on our webpage, which has been so useful to have. So yeah.
Carolyn, that
Yes.
is a phenomenal report. That's amazing to have all that information, and it almost makes me feel like we should have a little sort of a slight treasurer's role, just because to capture all of that would be a great starting point. I was almost positive that I remembered. Let's go back, I don't know, 6 some odd years when first becoming a member of the commission. I thought I recalled a budget of $400. Kristen, you have such great historical memory. Does that anywhere ring true?
It may have been way back, but over the years, I think it's been reduced a little bit as we, in a year where we don't spend all of it, the select board might come back to us and say, would you mind if we reduced your operating budget by a certain amount when they're doing budget season,
Yeah. So I think if we talk to them, we explain, and Justin was very clear that he thought that we were, because if the select board, like you said, they may make it smaller on years we don't use it, but we have been using it. But now it seems that there's this threads that are missing, right? Like people are just miscommunicating, and the numbers are different documents. So he said that he would go with us to a select board meeting and make the case that this is, if this was what the select board decided, it was based on errors on the town's side, not on a lack of us using the funds, and that he wholeheartedly supported us going back to our original amount, because that was an error the treasurer's office had made, and that he thought that we should have the full operating budget, especially if we're paying 50 for the AVCC dues, 50 to grant update. That's only $100 operating budget at that point. So and again, there may be a grant update allocation as well. I didn't have a chance to look that up before the meeting, but we were still trying to figure out where should these go, and things are just coded in unexpected ways, I think, in the system. It's just such a complicated beast,
Could you give a quick recounting of the total with that add-in of the 10,000 that got lost for that 1 year?
So once the 10,000 that was lost is in, and once the 10,000 comes in July, on July 1st of 2024, we should have $83,857 and $57.24. So about $84,000 should be in there in July of 2024.
And that's an interest-bearing fund?
I don't know about that. The only interest-bearing fund that I discussed with him was the A. Johnson Memorial Fund Trust that we have, where the interest pays for trees. And I have that. That is in I have a statement for that one, actually. That's at the North Branch Bank, and that is getting interest, so that we can use the interest to buy trees. But I don't know about this Conservation Reserve Fund.
Boy, it really should be. That's a good chunk of change, and even putting it into a CD for the last, starting in it was 5.5% for a CD. But anyway,
yeah, I think one
that
of the
would be
ideas
nice
with
to
this
know.
money. Yeah, I hear that. I think that one of the ideas with this chunk was, is we want it to be flexible to use when a property goes for sale, right? That we need to be able to pivot and say, like, we have the money up front that we can, pull in other donors with. It's hard if that money is locked, like in a CD, for example, maybe a high yield.
No, it wouldn't be locked. It wouldn't be locked at all. In fact, what would happen is you'd pay a penalty, which would go against the interest that you were accruing. So there's no really loss. That money really is more liquid, and more than likely, you're not going to probably purchase a property on a regular annual basis. So you might as well be accruing interest when and where you can.
Right. I think some of the Eagle Park work has used a little bit of this funding recently. Is that right, Kristen?
Yeah, there has been discussion in recent years that the Conservation Reserve Fund will be tapped in order to make up the amount of the cost for Eagle Park repairs that is not being reimbursed by FEMA. And it could be a significant amount. I've been needing to reach out to Valerie now that most of the steps of that reconstruction are complete, so that we have a sense for if we need to, how much of the CRF we need to use for that.
And you can see on that list, there has been Eagle Park Fishing Platform has been used for that before.
Yeah, the original construction was funded in part by the Conservation Reserve Fund.
But when you start thinking about leveraging funds, right, like how much is FEMA putting in for that platform versus how much with the Conservation Reserve Fund, it's a small percent.
Exactly.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, I am certainly in favor of having maybe a treasurer liaison position or something, to sort of follow up on some of these things. And that'd be really helpful. I was really surprised when I had that meeting to think, like, I just wanted to be like, what do we have? Like $100 or $200 and something cents? And they're like, oh no, it was a whole can of worms, so. I'm glad I had that meeting, and I've never been able to get such straight answers out of Holly Hall before. So it was really nice to go through and get those account numbers, and now we can like really hopefully have some clarity going forward. And I think that's gonna be really nice for everyone.
Just Carolyn, who is the new treasurer? Justin who? What's his name?
Bouvier.
Oh, it is. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, there's a lot of enthusiasm. Okay, cool. So then that would bring us, if we're done with budget, are we feeling okay about budget? Okay. So then what we have left to do then is we have to do our annual meeting of electing a chair, vice chair, and clerk. And then I also want to draw your attention to item C of new business, where I really was hoping we could think about seeking members to volunteer as liaisons with other committees or offices. I was thinking about that maybe being like a treasurer liaison who could follow up and say like, it's July, did you put the money in the CRF? Or, you know, do we have our new money, or what are the accounts? And just like checking in, the person who could maybe know those account numbers, the person who could maybe follow up on, we got this grant, or we credited with the amount for the grant, and like little things like that. I thought we don't have to do it. I just thought maybe that'd be useful. The other one I thought was, since the select board did change our allocation at some point and we don't know about it, and again, it could be a typo or it could have been changed. Maybe someone could be like the select board liaison, where they could read the minutes or TA report every meeting and just scan for, did they mention us or projects we're working on? Because I think it'd be good. Everyone's kind of casually, I think, doing that, but things are falling through the cracks. I just want to make sure we're on it. So if someone would be interested in filling those roles, I thought those could be good roles to have as well going forward, but I don't know, whatever you think is fine too. So those are the things I was thinking. And we do have a quorum today, so we can vote on these items. So how do you want to do this? Should we do the chairs and stuff and clerk?
Briefly responding to your idea of at least a treasurer liaison, and then also, were you imagining someone that might sort of periodically or regularly sit in on the planning commission? Or how when you say other committees?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just spitballing.
Okay.
I don't know. I was just surprised that we had the treasurer thing was just so messy. And then I was also surprised that, you know, looking through all these reports from the select board and thinking like, when did they cut our money? When did they talk about us? And I'm just going through years, and I'm just like trying to search all the minutes and be like, when did they cut our stuff? When did they change? And I couldn't find anything, but it seemed like a really bad way to do that, by like trying to look through years all at once, trying to like control find in a PDF. And it was like, if someone had just been cognizant of what the select board was doing, maybe we could have had more conversation with them, or maybe they never changed it. I was just a thought I had. I don't know. It was just frustrating that day to spend. I mean, I spent 5 or 6 hours dealing with treasurer and looking through minutes and town reports, and it was just not something I would like to do regularly, you know, to have those kind of oopsie moments and trying to fix it when we could just be on top of it in the first place. But I don't know, maybe it's not a big deal.
Well, maybe
Go ahead, Dallin.
maybe that's something that the new treasurer will do. They'll know that there should be budgeted $350 to the Bristol Conservation Commission, and when it comes up in a select board meeting and it's changed, he'll notify us. I don't know. It seems to me that any changes, the committees that are affected need to be notified, as opposed to every committee has to have a representative looking at the notes of every meeting to see how they were affected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think our budgets are kind of small potatoes compared to most of the budgets that the town is wrangling with, and I totally get that and expect that. And so maybe it does fall upon us to kind of steward our own accounts, or just pay attention to our own accounts.
I would say it falls under the squeaky wheel syndrome, where wherever they can cut money, they're just going to do it. And if nobody really responds, they can keep going in that direction. And arguably, you like to think that, you know, with inflation and so on, our budgets might bear to be increased a little bit over time instead of being reduced. But I would offer that it does seem to be helpful that we could have some portion of a meeting every so often, maybe it's once or twice a year, where we have a budgetary item on the agenda, and then maybe it falls under the vice chair to take on that slight treasury role. You've got a great start, Carolyn. I mean, a really absolutely fantastic start to get a handle on some of this. So that's what I might think could be helpful going forward, because we should have a presence from time to time instead of just responding. It should be more active with the select board, so they know that we're at almost full membership. We accomplished quite a bit, and we serve the town, I think, more than adequately. And we should be funded to the fullest support that they would provide.
Carolyn,
Oh, yes,
just a suggestion, each select board member is assigned to one of the commissions as a liaison.
oh,
So you
really?
should find out who yours is. I'm not sure who it is right now, but it might be easier, Jessica. And then
Thank you,
you
Jim.
report to her, and she can bring it up at the select board meeting.
That sounds lovely. Okay, great. Well, I'm gonna do that. I'll put on my list of things to do, find out who our select board liaison is, and then,
Wow.
It was,
It's either Jessica or Michelle Cruz, whichever.
mhm.
Carolyn, it would be in the minutes from one meeting ago or 2 meetings ago, whenever they did their elections.
Huh.
Okay, it would be
I
on the
remember,
elections one.
I remember the table, I just don't remember offhand who was appointed to us.
Amazing.
Okay.
And Jim is very spot on, because when I was in Middlebury on various committees, there was always a select board liaison, and some were great about being there almost every meeting. Others probably every 2 or 3 meetings would they be present. So it's not when needed. It's that's their eyes and ears of what's happening with the different functions of the town.
You know, we could find out who our liaison is and invite them to a meeting and tell them what we've been working on and
Sure.
find out if there's any questions they have for us, and who knows, right? Show them that we have information on our webpage if they need it, you know? That was why we made the Conservation Reserve PDF, was because the select board and town admin at the time, several years ago now, were for several years in a row, we're asking, could we change the allotment? Could we cut it? And finally we put that together as a way to explain what the fund does, because much like Helen just asked, they didn't know what it was for. And so we put that together, and ever since we put that together, I've never heard a peep since, once we put that PDF together. So now, once they had the information at their fingertips, they understood, and it used to be every year they would ask to change it. So anyhow,
Switching
So,
gears a little bit, I back to the officers. I don't know if there's others that would be interested in the vice chair role. Is that a place to start, or how do we want to proceed, Carolyn?
yeah, would anyone like to volunteer to be the chair, vice chair, or clerk?
I'm happy to continue as clerk. I know I haven't been amazing in the last couple months, but always room for improvement, right?
I think you're doing great.
If anyone else wants to take it over, I'm also very happy to step aside.
Are you the clerk?
Yes. You volunteered me to be clerk. You nominated me originally.
You're the secretary.
No.
Following in Zaley's footsteps, if there are no others that are immediately interested in the vice chair role, I would continue with that. It's not a very demanding role, with a caveat that, again, I'm still in the process of trying to get the whole farm up and running. So I just have to be cautious about time commitments. So I say that ahead of time. But I have been a treasurer in 2 organizations in the past. I have no accounting background, but I would be a little bit willing to meet with was it Joel?
Justin Bouvier.
Justin. And then maybe see if there might be a way that we can have a document that could be building on what Carolyn's meeting has established.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe in a couple months, wait for some of these things to shake out that I've pointed out. Hey,
Yeah.
what about this? What about this? Right? Wait for some of those
Sure.
to come out and then have another meeting. That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And
like a pretty
then-
big platform to run on right there. It's gonna be
And
hard
then
to turn that
Carolyn,
down.
I have to say, I think you do an absolutely tremendous job. I have been on other committees in the past, and I really highly respect and enjoy the way that you put the meetings together and keep track of everything. So I feel I think we would all be honored if you would consider another year, but I also want to be respectful of your young family. And by the way, I need to respond to Mike. This is out of order, but Mike has done a beautiful job in stepping in on the school board. So, so your family is
I hear
doing
that a lot.
a great service to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, I can accept that nomination if no one else wants to be chair. Does anyone else want to be chair? I didn't.
God bless you, Carol.
Okay, fine. Okay, well, then.
And
that can be-
Zaley, I'll be clerk.
Okay.
You've been doing it for several years. Let's have that one move around.
Cool.
Great.
And I'm
Cool.
happy
Thank you,
to fill
Helen.
in for you anytime.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. All right,
Oh,
so should
the
we do
one
this?
constraint I have. The software on my computer is very limited, and I remembered, maybe I can figure this out. I couldn't save Word documents as PDFs.
You
I do it
want
all.
to?
I do it all on Google Docs. So
Right.
I can run you through that, but I do it all on Google Docs.
No,
I
can
open I open Carolyn's agenda as a doc and entirely email it to the town and to all of you guys all through Google Docs. I don't
Okay.
have Microsoft Word.
So maybe
Yeah.
separately, Zaley, just we could talk and you could let me know what my responsibilities are.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
And then Jono, I could email you a whole bunch of list of information I have about the treasurer stuff too, with the account numbers and things if you wanted.
That would be fabulous.
Okay, cool. So we should probably officially do this. So, I guess, does anyone want to make a motion about the chair officially?
Yes, I move that Carolyn Dash be named chair of the Bristol Conservation Commission next year.
Okay,
Second.
is there a second? All right. And then all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so
Aye.
then Carolyn Dash is the chair of the Conservation Commission. So I have a motion about the vice chair.
A motion that John will be the
John
vice
will
chair.
Okay, we've got a first, we have a second.
I second.
Okay, Helen can second. All those in favor of Jono being the vice chair? Okay. The yeses have it. So then Jono is gonna be the vice chair. That motion carries. And then I have a motion about the clerk.
I'll make a motion that Helen Young.
Good job, Zaley.
Okay, and then is there a second for that motion?
I would be happy to second that.
Okay, Jono's a second, and then all those in favor of Helen being the clerk?
Not the, oh yeah.
One
Aye.
more person, there we go, one more person, there we go, good. Okay, then Helen will be the clerk, that motion also carries. Okay, so thank you for doing all that. We're going to, in terms of liaisons, we're gonna roll the treasurer liaison into the sole duty of the vice chair, plus backing up on random emails. And then there's an official chair. So we don't have a treasurer position on our bylaws, so that'll just be a liaison goal of that chair, of that seat. And then we'll think about a select board liaison. Maybe we'll just ask who their liaison is with us, right?
And-
Kristen, do you
and
want anything to add?
I'm willing to be that. I mean, I have kind of served in that role in the past anyway, as we have
Okay.
gone to make requests for disbursements from the Conservation Reserve Fund or management
Right.
plan, or whatever. So I'm happy to continue in that role.
That would
Great.
be wonderful. Do you think
Yes.
as the new unofficial select board liaison, would you do you think we should invite them to come over maybe in like early fall, late summer or something like that? Whoever that person is. to
Their
talk to them.
liaison to us, you mean?
Someone is a liaison on the select board to us. Maybe we should invite them
Right.
in. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, and then we have upcoming events, and I do think we should talk about upcoming events. In terms of upcoming events, we have no work days planned, although we have discussed planning through email a work day at the end of May, early June, as needed, and we will let the public know once we make that plan. If we make that plan. We have Green Up Day planned on the 4th, where we'll man the booth in the morning. Or woman the booth, I guess I should be inclusive. And then what else? Our next meeting in May 9th will be at 6 o'clock in the Holly Hall conference room with a Zoom option, and it will be dedicated from 6 to 7 as the Middlebury College Wildlife presentation and community Q&A session. Do we want to try to hold a short 7 to 7:30 business meeting that day, or is that too zany? What do you think about that? In
Can you
terms of
anticipate
agenda for
things-
that meeting?
Yeah.
I've listed debrief the accessibility with Porter Knight. And that's it. That's all I listed of things we want to talk about in the future from today's meeting.
Meredith and Frisbee golf. I
On the
mean,
Frisbee golf
everything that
too.
Meredith didn't get to talk to us about.
Mm.
So yes.
Okay, well, frankly, I mean, maybe the community would be, because I feel weird being like, and now we're done, we're having our own meeting, get out. But maybe we just say like, and now we're going to talk about accessibility and Frisbee golf, and the public can be there if they want to be there, I guess. Is that, how do we feel?
Well, I think if we introduce it as the first hour is the presentation by the students on this
Yeah.
project they've been doing, and then we will break into our monthly meeting, and you're welcome to stay.
Yeah, that's okay.
I
Are
think
people okay
it's,
with that?
I think it might be an opportunity to
Get new members.
sort of look at who we have in attendance and say, hey, we have an opening. If you want to get a feel for our meeting, this is a great opportunity for a half an hour to see and hear a little bit of what we do, and maybe you're intrigued with wanting to become a member.
Okay, that sounds great. Kristen, for that debriefing accessibility thing, do you want to do that, or would that be something you want to invite Porter for?
I can do it. I think they envision monthly meetings through September. So
Okay.
it'll be a work in progress.
The unfortunate part of that is we almost never have a meeting in August. And I'm out of town for July. I don't know about you guys. I can do Zoom, of course, but and we don't have a plan. What was that?
We're out of town for August, but we'll be here in July.
Yeah. We often cancel the August one, right? So I just worry about like, what do you, maybe after that first meeting, you'll know whatever it is you need from us, so we can answer that. So you'll be like empowered for the summer. If that makes sense, right?
Yep.
And then we need to think about our June meeting now, because we'll have such a short May meeting. So we'll try to do a meeting, hybrid, like this right now, where it's in person and online, unless we decide in our May meeting for our half-hour nub of a meeting, we could think about the June meeting and see if we want to do it at the park or something. That makes sense. Okay, so I'll add that to our decide on. Okay, great. Okay, cool. So you should have put me as chair. Now I'm drunk on power and I won't let you leave. Okay, so okay, so that's what we'll do for May then. We'll have students presentation, student Q&A, debrief that meeting, Frisbee golf if they're available, and then decide on a June meeting plan. And we'll just do that real quick, right? When this, after everyone sort of leaves, or if they stay, we'll be like, come on, join us, That's a good plan. Okay, great. We're gonna try to post the minutes sooner, or the agenda sooner. I'm gonna talk to the clerk about that as well. The clerk meaning not Helen, I meant the town clerk, but also Helen. You have to take the minutes and you gotta post them on Front Porch Forum. Okay, and then that's it. I think we're good. I think, so I'll see you all at Green Up Day if you're there. Otherwise, our next meeting will be with the students here. Good?
Great.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming and staying for 12 extra minutes for a crazy busy day.
Thank you for being so organized.
Tremendous.
Wait, we need a motion.
Oh, yes.
I'll,
Shoot,
I'll
yeah,
motion
we
to
didn't have a
adjourn.
Your last act as clerk.
I'll make a
Absolutely.
motion that we would adjourn at roughly 7:43.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Okay, the motion
right.
carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. See you all
Bye,
next
Jim.
month.
See you soon.
Bye.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Good night, all.
Bye.
You were right here.